Awesome. Well,
Hey.
thank you for agreeing to be on our show in one of our first episodes. Um, Jessica, I've known Jessica for, oh gosh, since back in the MySpace days. We were online buddies for a while,
Yeah.
and recently met her in 2017, and we collaborated on a few projects, and that was a whole
Very
lot of
cool.
fun. And actually, when I first had the idea for this podcast, um, she was one of the first people that I thought of because I was so infatuated with her entire process because she does
Nice.
so many different things and there's so much interesting overlap between all the different things that she does. So, Jessica, thank you so much. And how are you? How are you doing? How's everything going?
Oh, thanks for inviting me. I'm so excited to be on your program, and gosh, things are going great. It's crunch time right now. We're gonna open pre-orders on Saturday, which is the equinox, and then the album's set to release on July 15th as my birthday. So it's a little less than a month away, but things are going really great, and I'm really excited. I've been keeping a lot of the details under wraps, and so this will kind of be the first time I'm really going to be talking about what I've been working on. So yeah,
Shit, we
couldn't
got
think
the
of a better
exclusive.
venue for that. Yeah, you do.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
You guys are the first. You know what? As I got a call. I got an email from the Weekly today, but you guys were first, so you get the credit.
Hell yeah.
We thought of it first.
Well, okay, so
Yeah.
since we're the first, let's go on ahead, and before we get too deep into your background, Jessica,
Okay.
what exactly is releasing? We know it's a record, but who or
He just
while I
bumped the
knock
mic
over
and
all
it
my
just
equipment,
whom, whom,
Yep.
whom, whom.
Who or what is releasing this album, and what's that all about? Tell us about the album.
Sure. So this will be the first album that I'm releasing just under my own name,
Okay.
Jessica Haeckel. And then Tribe of Crow, my kind of creative collective entity, is going to be serve as the record label. So it's Jessica Haeckel presented by Tribe of Crow.
Nice.
And my previous two albums have been released under the name Gemini Rising, and we kind of just I sort of closed that chapter at the end of the previous album, and we're stepping into new territory here. Pretty exciting new territory. I can't believe how much has happened in the last 6 years since the last release. But one of the things that certainly happened is that CDs are obsolete. And so that's one of the changes that I've really had to sit down and take time to think about and get real about and address in how I'm going to present my music in ongoing into the future, because it's certainly not going to be CDs, and yet the digital format leaves so much to be desired. I think we lose so much of the art experience that we got with CDs, certainly that we got with records and even tapes, and so I want to find ways to preserve that.
Sure.
So I was having a kind of brainstorm session with my friend who's also a musician, and we got to talking about CDs like I usually do with other musicians, and I go, oh, well, you know, how many boxes of CDs you got? Collect and dust, because I got more than I'd like to have. But really the question is, what are you going to do next? What do we do now? And I said, well, shit, you know, what is a CD? Let's start with, what is that even for? And it's really just to deliver music. We're delivering music and we're delivering art.
Right.
That's it. I said, you know, we're artists, buddy. Now that we are free of that square and circle,
Yeah.
we can just color all over the lines and we can do whatever we want. So you can do whatever the fuck you want. I said, as long as you give them the music and you give them the art. Whatever else you want to do, all bets are off.
That's got to be a really freeing place to be. And okay, so Ryan, you can take a back seat for a minute because
That's
you
okay.
know Jessica.
I
and,
know Jessica. She's
I've-
awesome.
Yeah.
I know you've mentioned her to me just in your own excitement, working with her and stuff like that. But I just kind of took a bit of a deep dive into what you have available on the internet in terms of your social media and your YouTube channel, what you've got under Gemini Rising on Spotify. So you are just all over the map creatively. You are very obviously just an artist, like in its purest sense, from my perspective. And I don't really consider myself kind of, to play in that realm. I have a creative gig. I am in food and beverage, and I have a lot of creative control over what I do. But like, I look at people like my buddy Ryan here, and people like you, who really I don't really know who else I could consider to be a person like you. From what I've observed through the web, I'm just blown away. Right?
Thank you.
I just remembered where I was going with that. But having those constraints removed, like that's got to be major, right? So what do you? I mean, can you share some of the details about that? What are you doing?
Yeah. Gosh, constraints can be such a blessing as well.
Sure.
I think especially for people who do a lot of things, it's the kind of paradox of choice when there's so many things to choose from. But in this case, I kind of just went with it. I started thinking, well, what's the craziest thing I could do? Because I like to do the crazy thing. And if Ryan's told you anything, you might know that.
Okay.
I've got it.
But so I started brainstorming with artists, and I had a friend. He was helping me out with something one day, and he said, why don't you make a custom music box? And I was like, that's crazy. Can you do that?
Shit.
And I'd never heard of that, and I was like, well, I mean, if someone can do it, I could probably do it. I just have to learn more about it. I've learned a lot along the way that most of the time things aren't difficult. There's just a lot of simple steps. When you look at the whole thing, it seems complicated, but if you break it down, it's a lot of simple steps. So it's okay. I got to figure out this music box shit and see if that's a thing. It is. Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Okay, you guys. So
Oh.
so look at this. I'll show you one. Hang on a sec. Okay. So this is my first experiment with a music box.
I'm so excited.
And can you see it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so let me show what I've got here. So this is a little hand crank music box, and this is the music. Let me see if I can get it to focus.
Nice.
There we go.
What song is this?
Okay. So this song is called Adrift and at Peace, and it's a Nine Inch Nails song.
Nice.
And it's from their Still album, which is probably my favorite Nine Inch Nails album. Yeah. And I would say that my new album is pretty heavily influenced by Still, in that it's minimalistic, and yet at the same time it's very maximalistic. It takes there are not many moments when he's playing more than 2 notes on the piano, but he's playing the 2 right notes. And he gets just the right one, so that's all you need. It really maximizes the potency while minimizing the notes, and it's so powerful and it's so pure, and the potency, that's what it is. You got less notes, more power. I love it. I love elegance and efficiency in that way. So I've gone a lot for that in this album. It's piano driven, which is unusual, and pretty minimalistic. But here, I'll show you this music box. This isn't my song. It's Nine Inch Nails.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Let me hold it right. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
So this strip I cut with
awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
a laser cutter.
Oh, wow.
And this is just a little 15-note music box. The deluxe version of my album is going to come with a 30-note music box,
Oh shit.
which is twice as many notes. And I can kind of show you. Here, I'll show you this, which is the first sort of prototype for the deluxe. The inside of the deluxe. This is just a part of it, okay? Let's see.
Intense.
Okay. Let me
Nice.
see.
Wow.
So it's got. I've changed it a lot since this first design. Let me see. Hold these. So there's got the music box inside, and there are these little bottles that contain the songs rolled up on the cardboard strip. And yeah. So I don't have those yet to show you, but
Whoops.
they're going to be part of it. They all come with a little pair of hemostats, so you can get the songs out of the bottles, you know.
Oh, nice.
And also
Yeah,
for
also-
easier roach smoking.
Oh, well.
I mean, oh, sorry. Sorry. My bad. You
And
know,
then,
if
of course,
insects
each
are
one,
your thing.
they matter of fact, are. And then, of course, each one comes with the small bottle, which contains the digital format.
Oh, shit.
USB.
Hell yeah.
And that has a little cork. Can you? I'm trying
Got
to.
your
I'm
brand
trying to
in there.
accommodate both cameras.
No, I appreciate that. That looks
Okay.
great.
That is so...
And then all the lyrics. All the lyrics are in here on these strips.
Nice.
Jesus. I mean, in terms of overall value provided, right? Like,
Yeah.
most people are pretty satisfied. You know, okay, so back in the days when CDs were a common and regular thing, you know, you were doing pretty good to have some awesome album art, and then like maybe lyric sheets in the booklet, maybe a little bit of
Yeah.
extra art in there, but that's it.
Yeah.
But,
That's
like
it.
this is value added, man. Like
I love it.
it's amazing. And the
Do you wanna
novelty
see
of
the,
having music. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the novelty of having music in a bottle is like just it tickles me endlessly. So
I like the idea too of experiencing that for the first time while reading it on a little parchment scroll. You know, that's got to
Yeah.
invoke like kind of a different feeling than reading it on some cardstock
yeah.
or something. You know, you're sitting there reading it on a scroll basically.
you're,
I love that.
literally being transported like into the
Yeah.
exact space that Jessica wants you to be, and that's fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
She does that
It
pretty
is.
good.
It's meant to be immersive. I even found a font that's very close to my handwriting.
Oh, cool.
I thought it'd be creepy to give you guys like my exact handwriting, you know, because I don't not you guys, but you never know, you know.
It's a lot of weirdos.
So
out
this
there.
is.
Wow.
But let me show you so the one I just showed you, that's the deluxe. I'm only going to be making 10 copies of this large version. And this is just the wood part. Oh, so the deluxe version, before I move on, I want to tell you, it's also got, now I'm sorry, I need to backtrack because I haven't given you enough information.
Oh, that's okay.
We got all the time in the
Let's-
world.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, let's move to, I want to show you the standard version though. This is the one this is the one. It's a little book. Can you see it? It's got
Oh, yeah.
laser, it's got laser engraved waves on it. The title of the album is Empty Boat. And so I wanted to keep this very zen, and I didn't put any text on the cover, just my symbol here.
Wow.
And these waves. And then on the first page, there's a little surprise on the first page. I'm not going to share that with you right now. But
Okay.
but then we'll go ahead and turn past there. And then the bottle's in there with the lyrics and stuff. So this is the standard version. There's a little surprise in between these pages, but I'm not going to tell you.
Oh.
Nice.
It's pretty fun though. So the deluxe version is just going to be a larger version of this same design. It's laser printed on cork.
Yeah. That's
yeah,
what
it's all
the whole thing is
it's
cork?
The cover is cork, and
Okay.
then the pages are birch,
Wow.
and this is just some like parchment. So on the large one, it's also styled like a book, but instead of the one page surprise. You get 4 pages of surprises, and I'll show you. I'll show you one of them. I'll show you the mock-up for one of them. Okay. Let's see. I wish I had a cover for it. I'll show you this. Okay.
It's intense.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Nice.
Wow. Jesus Christ, man.
The tail's not on here. But anyway, so there's a series of, I like how it kind of flies off the page when you open it. It kind of goes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Nice, dude.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
So this is really fun. I got really into paper engineering for a little bit, working on this. Back in December, I was really geeking on some paper.
I mean, but so this is my snap take on all of this, right? And take it
Okay.
for what it is. I absolutely do not know shit about shit, especially when it comes to art or music. I know how things affect me, and we have reached a place where if you're going to create and you're going to try and use that to at least be a portion of your income, like you have to go all the way to the next level. And particularly in music, right? If you are going to sell an album that's not just a digital download, which is really hard, you basically have to be a hardcore audiophile to purchase music right now, because
Yes.
a FLAC file sounds like infinitely better than the shit that Spotify is cranking out, right? Like even with really good headphones, you're like volume limited, you miss a lot of richness of tone, and that kind of blows.
Yeah.
But you've still got the opportunity to like sell someone a hard, like a solid state version of digital music, right? So you've got maximum opportunity for audio quality, one, but also you're going so far beyond what like the next level is. You're setting a precedent that I think currently in the state of the gig economy and like subscription paid services that deliver endless amounts of content, this is where a musician needs to be to still sell their product outside of the $15 a month, for a family Spotify plan. So
Absolutely.
like good on you. Like,
People miss it. It's something different about just having something in your hands.
yeah.
When we did the previous album, I did a Kickstarter at that time, and the one thing I did that I think made all the difference in the world was, rather than pestering all my friends online and spamming them, I sent every person who had ever purchased my first album a postcard, a handmade art postcard. I designed it, both sides. It was beautiful, and I sent them out I sent a couple hundred of them out just all over the world. And it was a surprise, and these people would be surprised, and they'd get something in their mailbox, and it was so fun. About a few days after I sent them out, people started popping up on my timeline and being like, "Oh, I got your postcard in Paris, I got your postcard in LA, I got your postcard in Montana," but the other thing about it was, a postcard is so completely accessible, that even if it doesn't reach the intended recipient, it's going to reach somebody, and anybody if they're holding it in their hands, they can access its entirety.
Right.
So I actually ended up gathering some new fans just because they were like, "Ooh, this person sends cool stuff. Who are they? What are they doing?"
You've got a huge percentage of your fan base that's employed by the USPS, apparently. That's
Oh yeah.
It's your street team.
You got it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there's something different. Even like digital books are great. You can have 100 books in your bag, but
Right.
but there's something special about cracking a book, like a real book.
And it's like natural organic material. And
yeah,
like
I think we missed that.
100%.
People miss that.
For sure. I still prefer books over digital any day. I don't care if
Yeah.
it takes up
Yeah.
space or weighs a lot every time I move, but I think with me, the biggest part is like smelling it.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'll stop every like 20 minutes and just stick my face in them. Like,
That's why I love Goodwill books, man.
Oh man, that's I can't get behind it. No, I like that smell too, but I'm also a little bit more skeptical about that smell because
Sure.
that smell might be like, you know, the skin particles of how many other
Yeah.
people, and part of me is a
No, I
germaphobe. And
fucking
I'm
love
like,
it.
Yeah, you're a freak though.
Or playing
No,
a real
there's-
piano.
What's that?
Playing a real piano instead of a
Oh,
keyboard.
Yeah,
Oh
for sure.
man, and you can feel it.
Yeah, that's my
Smell the
favorite.
wood.
Like
Yeah.
the sound of a big grand piano like resonating in a room. You know, there's nothing like that. You're not going to get that in any keyboard. You know,
It's all about them vibes.
all about the vibes.
Wow.
Well, cool. It's really cool to see all of this come together because you've been teasing all of this on Instagram for a while and just kind of taking a picture here and there of what you're doing. I'm just like, man, what is she up to? But, you know, now I know
Yeah.
this is awesome. So you've got the standard package, you've got the deluxe package. Is there anything else that's kind of going with this big release that's happening on the 15th?
Yeah, so let's see, a couple more things I can say about these are, for the first run, I'm only doing 100 of the standard and 10 of the deluxe. Obviously, they're very labor intensive,
Yeah.
and I'm making them myself. I will probably also employ some people to craft them alongside me, which is something I do with Tribe of Crow a lot, is to create small jobs that people can do from home. And this is a really excellent job that anybody can do from home in their spare time.
Nice.
So I'm planning to help some people help me with that.
Right.
And I think I'm going to do a thing where you can get, of course, I'll be throwing in, like I said, I've got a bunch of CDs. And I need to get rid of them. So I'm going to be throwing CDs in, for sure. What else? I don't know yet. I'm just working. I was up really late last night getting the pre-orders website up and all of the structure for that. And so today, or tonight, is kind of a content night where I'll be, that's when I'll be sorting out the details of this question you've asked.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's layers upon layers of value and more to be added still. Jesus.
There's a lot to do. I'm kind of doing the work of a whole team, so it's taking a long time, but I don't mind. And I think, you know, a lot of my fan base has a huge overlap with Tool's fan base, so I think that they are very, very patient people.
Nice. That's good.
And very loyal, lovely people, and they don't mind waiting 10 years or 6 or 7 years for an album if it's worth the wait. So
Now,
Yeah.
how long do you anticipate, like start to finish, 100 standard and 10 like premium? What are you calling
Deluxe.
it? Deluxe. Okay, sorry.
deluxe.
And now, how long do you anticipate start to finish that whole manufacturing process is going to take?
Well, let's see. I had some notes about that because one of the things I do when I put one together is I track how long each step takes so that I can decide what a fair price is for the workers. And then when I have a new product for workers, we all sit down and we discuss the process of making it, and we discuss the labor, and then we all agree on what seems like a fair price. So I'm just in the beginning stages. I've created this prototype which I put together.
Okay.
And the surprise isn't in there yet, so it's not there yet.
Damn.
So I don't know, how long is it going to take for these simple ones? It takes, I don't have my note here, but I can show you some of the pieces. I'm laser engraving these myself. Here, this is one of the covers. And then I've got these, so here's the inside part of the cover, which is made from laser cut chipboard that I actually scavenged from a friend's local business. They received these because they get their metal on pallets of this.
Nice.
And he said they just have it coming in all the time. So I went and picked it up. It's really great material. So I'm trying to do as much recycled material as I can, obviously,
Sure.
for any number of reasons. So one of the first step would be like glue these onto here, and then you gotta fold them over, and you gotta clip them down, and that, that's gonna take a couple minutes. That takes a couple minutes, and then it's got to be, it's got to be right, and then you got to glue And then you gotta glue the wood together, and that takes a couple minutes. And then you gotta laser cut engrave the cork, and that's, I don't know. I wish I could tell you, but we're not quite into manufacturing yet. Right now I'm working on creating all the materials so that my people can hit the ground running, and maybe we'll just have a work party. I suppose 100. Might take a half hour. Maybe it takes a half hour each, or 15 minutes. It's between 15 minutes and 30 minutes.
Okay.
Let's say it's 20 minutes each to assemble when you know what you're doing.
So
or
with
when
the
you
right
have a
team,
flow already.
with the right team, a couple of days really to knock it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll take a few days. And I'm just going to be putting them together. Well, we'll see how it goes. I think with the first album, they sold out, or the first 100 sold out during the pre-order period. And I'm really hoping that'll happen again here, but who knows? I don't know. I'm just on a ride. I don't know.
No, I get it, but I'm just like, man, if people find out, like, I don't care if they've ever heard of you or if they would otherwise be fans of your music. If the right people see that, you're not gonna have enough time like left in your life to keep up with that, man. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, not enough
Thanks,
people
I
are really
figure-
doing that.
Yeah, like
even if they don't like the music, at least maybe I could design albums.
yeah. Oh
Right.
my God,
You know?
I could easily see like bands all over the world reaching out to you, just like gimme. How do
Give me
how do I
something.
get you to design my next album dispersion? I don't know what you would call it, like promotional package. Like, yeah, you're like definitely like a marketer's dream. I feel like you're just like you could teach a master class in self promotion, like 100%, because you're doing it in a way that is so far from gross and like self-serving. Like you're taking so much physical time. You've obviously invested so much time in planning. Like I keep going back to this, but like the value you're delivering, like, is beyond what anyone else I think is probably even willing to come close to doing. So, Jesus, I don't even know what else to say.
You blew his mind. You already blew his mind.
yeah,
We're only not even a half hour in, and his mind's just leaking.
Thanks.
My brain
You know-
started oozing out of my ears real early on.
It's one of the benefits of working for myself, and it's one of the curses too, because there's nobody here prodding me on, and there's no one here enforcing a deadline, and because it's a project I'm working on primarily alone, and that I've been very secretive about. I haven't had the any kind of encouragement
Sure.
or prodding or push from anywhere else, and I've really had to just have the my excitement. I'm making an album that excites me, and I'm making all this stuff that's I think my first album, I made an album that I loved and enjoyed, and then the second album I had become aware of having an audience, and that consciousness of being observed, I think, certainly plays into how that album came around. And I think that I spent some time since then in the last 6 years going back into myself and what I do music for.
Yeah.
Because it was always very personal. It was always very personal, and then it kind of was, I was sort of blindsided by public attention, and then and how to respond to that. And then I've sort of gone through that loop and circled back to the fundamentals of what it really inspires me, because that's kind of, at this point in my life, has become really essential. Just to getting up in the morning, there's got to be something exciting, there's got to be something different, something that's going to move us into the future creatively, and as a society and socially, and all these things. And I'm excited to get up and take that next step into the future each day. So that's what's really kept me going on this, and now I'm so excited to be able to share some of it, and to certainly feed off of everyone else's excitement too, for that last final push. Yeah.
And if you could just teach like every other creator and artist in the world how to find that level of self motivation, like you, you, you would be wealthy beyond reason.
You know what it was is they wouldn't let me, when I've had 9-to-5 jobs and I've worked for other people,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't let me do this stuff. I'd be like, hey, I've got this crazy idea. We should do it because it's a good idea. And they'd be like, yeah, it sounds crazy. Let's not do that.
Yeah,
And it was
like
really, it's really, I got to the point where I was feeling just so underutilized. I was like, dang, well, working for myself again is scary and it's risky, but, I know what's good and I can do what's good and I'm not going to have anyone stopping me. I can just go for it. So I've really gone hard, I think, with that philosophy working on this album. Just going for it. I'm so excited.
It's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I really like how there's so many different layers to the creative process, the design process. I mean, there's obviously the music. It probably started there with some ideas that you've been working on for a while, and then it turns into this thing which is kind of inspired by the idea that, like, look, there are no borders. We can do whatever we want. Let's go for it. Let's do something totally different that nobody else is really doing. But from there, what is there anything you can share in terms of what specifically inspired you about the current design? Having it in a bottle, having the music box. Is there any kind of aesthetic that is kind of blended with the music that kind of brought these things into fruition enough to the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do this shit? Because sidebar, one of the things I respect Jessica the most about is if she sets her mind to do something, she's going to fucking do it. Like, she'll figure out a way. She'll get there, So
I'll fill my living room with sand.
So, I mean, clearly, like, you set your mind to, using laser cutter to produce basically a physical work of art and to produce a music box and to, like, basically take it to the next level. But, yeah, what about the design kind of drew you into it?
Or can I kind of tack onto that as well?
Yeah,
almost
sure.
like
Yeah,
as a sub
please.
question.
Tack away.
Yeah.
I kind of want to hear, and I think that this ties into your question, but I want to hear what that, like, just from album, like, to concept. I want to hear about that timeline, like essentially, yeah, where did your inspiration kind of come from there, and then how did you, like, walk us through how you do that.
Wow. Well, that's a long walk.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, we got all night.
Okay. Well, I would say typically there's always overlap. By the time I'm finishing one album, the next one's already started brewing somewhere, at least in the background. And that's definitely true of this one. The previous album was released right at the beginning of my Saturn return. And so this album will be sort of a chronicle of the Saturn return and kind of completing that and coming back around to graduation from that. But it's the last few years have been really challenging in a lot of ways. And there's a lot, this album's very emotional. I'd say this is going to be the most emotional material that I've released so far. There's a lot of, and I haven't analyzed it in this way. I suppose there must be stages of grief. That's just going to happen, whether or not I'm planning for it. But there's the arc is I think with the hero's journey, when you either return to the community or you decide to set off on your own. And this album kind of culminated, I think, finally in a decision to go ahead and withdraw, and it's a bit of a resignation.
Wow.
In a lot of ways. And that's where the empty boat theme came from. When you, with this, you begin with just a blank ocean, and you just get a little bit of this. This is just a little bit of me in this crazy bit of wave right here. But it's.
Don't give it away.
It's the ocean. It's the message in a bottle, and it's an empty boat, and it's as though you have discovered this empty boat on a stormy sea, and all that's left to speak for me is this message in a bottle.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. But each of the songs, as I've worked through the album, I find each of the songs does tend to deal with escape or withdrawal, or at the very least a moving on. But it's very, the album is very much a journey. It's very much in transit for the duration.
Man, I'm so excited to listen to this. I really, really am.
And one of the things I'm really excited about is that my vocals, I think you're going to hear, well, fans who are familiar with my past work are going to hear some new things from me vocally. And I think they are things that people have been wanting to hear. And they're things that I've been needing to let out for sure. There's a lot of anger in this album. There's, yeah. And I'm very pleased to be able to showcase the vocal technique that I've been developing for myself over the last several years, that I'm getting ready to share with people. That's kind of a whole nother world, but oh my gosh,
Let's
okay.
go there. Let's go.
Should we talk about it? Should we
We're
go
along
there?
for the ride.
I don't know where to begin.
Well, okay,
I usually
here.
would have to begin at the beginning, right? The purpose of it, and I'm gonna start with why. When I started recording my first music, and this really would have been about the time that Ryan and I first became friends a long time ago. I had been a songwriter my whole life, but never a singer, not a singer. But I got to a point where I felt like I had these songs and that they were something I could offer. So I said, okay, I better learn how to sing then. So I just started learning, researching everything I could. I tried tons of the popular vocal programs at the time. I don't want to name names, but there are about 3 of the top commercial programs at the time. There's one that's for pop, there's one that's for rock, there's one that's a little more for metal. But the point is that it took 15 years to get to a point where I felt like I had managed to master my entire voice.
Oh, wow.
It's a wonderful feeling. It shouldn't take that long, because by the time I got there, well, someone asked me one day, they said, if you could give someone just one vocal exercise, what would it be? And that was a really hard question, and I did come up with the answer at that time, but it is not the answer I would give today, because I know more today. And at the time, I said that would be vocal fry. That's the exercise I would give people, which is just the It's the grudge sound. It's the it's a horrible sound. It does wonders for your voice if you do it right. Okay. So basically, what I wanted to do was I challenged myself. I said, okay, I want to create a vocal program that is so, a technique that's so essential that you can learn it in 15 minutes and have results immediately. None of this bullshit, these programs, I don't know if you ever, I don't know, but
I know
most of these programs, they make you do scales all day, la 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 la, and they make you do them for hours every day, and they're like, look, you're not gonna have results for like several months, okay? So keep doing these shitty scales all day. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. The other thing was, those programs are expensive. They're like $200-300, and I bought a few of them.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
But in this last year, I've kind of set my focus to picking out the essential parts of how to coordinate the vocal tract to basically, the way I see it is vocal problems when you're trying to sing and you're having a problem and it's not happening the way you'd like for it to happen. What's happening there is that your resonance is being blocked somewhere. So I found a very simple solution to, very quickly you can learn how to adjust your vocal tract to open up all of the areas that might be blocked. And when you can do that, you can connect the entire tract top to bottom with very little effort. And the great thing too about this technique is you don't have to do it perfectly. But if you do it 10% right, you'll get 10% of the benefit. The better you do it, the more benefit you get. But even just kind of sort of doing it right, you're going to get some benefit because it's such a, it's, the natural state of the voice is to be relaxed and without tension, relaxed and yet powerful. And I think what happens when people are not able to express themselves, and this is really the pain that people experience when they're dissatisfied with their singing voice or with their speaking voice, it's really about a feeling of being helpless or disempowered from expressing yourself authentically. Expressing yourself really in a way that you recognize and you say, yes, that's me, that's my expression.
Sure.
I think like when you hear your voice on many people, when they hear their voice on a recording, they go, oh, that's not how I
jarring,
sound.
Yeah.
That's not how I sound. And you don't want to own it because that's not how you sound. And, but once you can connect what you hear with what you feel, then you do sound like yourself. And you hear your voice and you go, fuck yeah, that's how I sound. And it's wonderful. And it's wonderful. And there's a feeling of freedom. Have you ever been in a dream and you try to scream and nothing comes out?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have, you know, I used to have that. I've actually been practicing screaming in my dreams.
Nice.
And I've gotten better at it, and now I've perfected the most like brutal dream scream.
Nice.
It's wonderful. And it's the same technique. But anyway, to be able to do that, that's what's feeling really good to me in this album and this new stuff. I've released a lot of anger, a lot of tension, a lot of that brutal scream, you know, needed to happen. So that's part of it too. It's so funny too, because by the time I come to the end of an album, I'm not necessarily where I've been during its process. So I'm not necessarily at that resignation point now where the album ends, but nonetheless, I honor it for what it was at the time. I don't know if you guys want to hear more about the tone mapping, and I don't know if I want to share it yet, but I can tell you one more thing about it. That's pretty fun. Well, while I was developing the technique, I accidentally learned how to do throat singing.
Okay.
You know, like the monks and stuff. They go,
Mongolian, like
the Mongolian.
yes.
Yes. Purely by accident, and it wasn't. I was trying to throat sing. I was trying to find the most natural, open, and powerful coordination for the voice. And what I found was when I got there, there was a sympathetic resonance with between the proper vocal cords and the false chords. So it just kind of happened naturally, and it was very exciting to go, oh, when you get into this total resonance, openness of the voice, that's what happens. And so throat singing, from there, I then I took that, I was like, oh, and I went back and I looked at everything else through that lens and further refined it. And so now it's very much based around throat singing and those principles. It's very exciting, and it's very much it is unlike any technique that I'm aware of that's been offered ever. So I am very excited about that, and very pleased to have an album coming out now where I can first showcase the results of using that technique myself, and the rapid progression that I've experienced with it.
That's great.
Very cool.
I told Ryan, I don't know, was that earlier today or the other day? We were talking about your music, because I was trying to cram as much of your background as I could to try and get some sort of a feel for you. And I told Ryan that it sounded to me like you while your music is so just like tonally like thematic, there's so much like texture to the music that I heard from Gemini Rising. It sounds like you're singing almost from like an ancient space, right? It sounds like you've got like a foot in two completely different points in time with how deeply you're expressing through your voice. So it sounds like this is almost going to be a similar sort of a thing for me. Like it sounds like kind of a like I don't know. I expect some sort of without putting too much expectation on it, some sort of like I don't know. I'm losing words right now. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, that's
Me too. It very much does feel that way. The songwriting process for me has never been. I've never said to myself, "Oh, I'm going to write a song." It never happens that way. It just they appear, and I'm just always listening, and they appear sometimes, occasionally all at once, and then sometimes little bit by bit over years even. The song that I worked on with Ryan, Ball and Chain, was several years in the making just to write it, because I don't force those things. I let them manifest in their own time, but it very much it feels more like a process of discovery than of creation.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's true of most of the things I do. It's kind of about being there, showing up and being open, and assisting
Yeah.
with what wants to come through.
You're like chiseling away at the stone, revealing what's buried within.
Absolutely. You know what? I say that so much. When I'm mixing, I go, oh, that's not David.
I think that's probably, like, in terms of the creative process, that's probably an excellent mantra for most like creatives to use. That's not David. That's beautiful.
yeah.
I love it. That should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And a tattoo.
But you know what is fun? When I say it, though, I think of it with the music from Sesame Street, That's Not Homer.
I don't, but I have an idea.
My camera stopped. Okay, here we go.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the Muppet goes into the animal shelter looking for Homer, and they keep bringing animals out, and he's like, no, that's not Homer. No, that's not Homer. Anyway, so every time I'm mixing, I'm like, that's not David.
I love it. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So
I love
oh, man.
Sesame Street.
Well, okay, and I wanted to ask before we get too far away from it, because I've got so many questions that just keep popping up. But for one, back to
Sure.
vocal exercises, and then I want to get
Okay.
back to dreams as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to vocal exercises. Do you have any that you can recommend for Ryan and I as we prepare for recording sessions here on the podcast?
Yeah.
What's a good vocal exercise for us to do?
For just speaking.
Yeah.
Okay. Either of you guys know French at all?
A little bit.
Know any French?
Je ne parle pas français.
Okay. Okay, that's all you need. Okay. Okay.
Zut alors. Okay, sorry.
Okay. There's one of the things that I find problematic with a lot of the vocal exercises that are traditionally taught is that they use American vowels.
Okay.
And American vowels shut you down. They shut down
Lazy as fuck, right?
the. Yeah, they shut you down. So, but with French vowels, your vocal tract and all your resonators stay open. So instead of ah, which some teachers will tell you to do, instead you go on,
Oh.
on,
Oh.
on.
Get it up in your nose.
Do yes, you do. You get it up in your nose.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly the difference.
It's not a good sound for the microphone, though.
And then what else? And then that's like a shutdown. But it's open. Yeah.
Okay.
And how about ooh? Ooh, that's shut down. Ooh. But which is hard unless you know some French.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm,
If you
I'm
feel it up here,
tightening
you got
up.
it right.
I can feel it.
Yeah.
So here's what I do. I'll show you what I do. I do this, and this is the wonderful thing about my technique is you do it on the spot. This isn't something you got to practice for hours every day. It's something you learn one time. Take 15 minutes, learn it, and then you can do it on the spot, right when you need it. I do it in between verses. I'll do a little bit of this, and then I hit that next verse just right. So I go. I'm gonna show you.
You're gonna show us.
That is intense.
That's insane.
I
You don't
love it.
sound like a human,
No.
man. That's
No.
fucking awesome.
So here's what I discovered, you guys. You've got two triangles of resonance in your face.
Okay.
There's one here, okay? And that is your texture. And then you've got, of course, this one. That's your tone. That's all in this triangle, okay? But the texture, that's where you get your screams and stuff. That's right, that's here. That's the upside down triangle. Let me see if I can get you a nice scream. Hang on. Well,
Whoa.
okay.
Yes.
But that's in this triangle. And this is with there's no effort. I'm not hurting myself. I'm not even barely doing anything. And then you've got two triangles in your chest for your breathing. So you've got two, basically the Merkaba, star tetrahedrons. You got one in your chest, you got one in your face. And in my program, my tone mapping program, I'll teach you how to use them. It's real simple.
Fuck yeah.
Dang.
That's it.
awesome.
That's what you got.
Nice.
Sold.
So we're gonna do a lot of French and throat singing warm-ups before every recording session.
Dude, I'm down.
Yeah.
Down. Finally, a warm up where I don't mind when somebody hears it because they don't know what the fuck it is, you know?
It just sounds demonic.
Yeah, some conjuring demons in here.
Sounds awesome.
I think it sounds. What kind of timeline are you looking at releasing that program, or have you not even thought about that yet?
No, I'm really focused on the album. The tone mapping program is something that's been, it's been coming together. I tend to work on different projects, kind of on different levels. So there's some part of my mind that is working on the tone mapping, but it's not on as conscious a level as the album right now. They're kind of stacked, you know?
Sure.
And so there are some things set up. I think I did spend some time building the website, and I have been... Here's the great thing about tone mapping, too, is sometimes I think about it and I go, oh, that's going to be a big, complicated thing. But then I remember, no, it's not, because I made it as simple as possible, and that's so exciting. So it'll be good. Really, it's intended to be a really short program. I don't want to spend all day doing scales, and I don't want anyone else to do it either. I just want to give you the tool. And none of that bullshit like, oh, I'm going to tell you everything except the important part, but you can buy my next one, you know? No, like, here's the beef, you know? Go, you know? So, I don't know exactly when, but it's going to be within 2020. I have 4 goals this year, and releasing tone mapping is one of them. And I'm about to finish the first 2, so... Yeah, I got time. I got time for 2 more goals.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love the motivation. I'm feeling it myself. You're motivating me right now. One thing that I thought is really, really cool about this, and the fact that it's essentially a product available to people at some point in the future, right? But like, you literally develop some of that shit in your dreams. Like, that's right. Like with your dreams screaming. Like, I feel like that influencing your vocal expression, or like exploring that space, is really awesome. And like, okay, you were talking about how songs kind of come to you all at once sometimes. I remember this was a really odd dream that I had once when I was in high school, and it was probably influenced by adolescent boy hormones or something, right? Because there were some elements of the dream that were distinctly okay, so it was kind of pornographic, but in a really like comical sort of way.
Okay.
And I was more of an observer in this entire thing. But like, okay, so I walk into a bar, and I'm observing everyone doing, what they're doing at the bar. But then all of a sudden, it's almost like someone like flips a giant toggle switch or something, and the bar expands out into this giant like theater-esque sort of a space. And there's like people on trapezes, and like everyone's doing a lot of strange stuff in this space all of a sudden. But it's set to a song, and everyone is singing the song like it's a musical. And I don't remember a single bit of it, but I do remember like coming to some stage of lucidity in the dream and recognizing that there were real lyrics in this song, and there were it wasn't like a stuttering, starting and stopping thing. It was a cohesive song in this dream that I had, and that's something that's always stuck with me in a weird way for multiple reasons, of course. But have you ever had a moment like that in a dream? Have you ever received song lyrics in a dream state like that?
Sure. Yeah, I do a lot of work in dream states. I do a lot of lucid dreaming. I have a very rich dream life, actually, it's not dissimilar from this one.
Wow.
It's just a secondary experience is how there's a layer of like static, like the little like chaotic kind of dreams that people have, like just like memories or little stuff they thought about.
Sure.
There's like this little static dreams. There's kind of a layer of that, and then once I get past that, there's a very rich and legitimate and cohesive world, and there's continuity, I find.
Wow.
For me. But I've been lucid dreaming a long time, so yeah, it's certainly a practice. But I have definitely had lyrics that came directly from the bottom of that well. For instance, some of the lyrics on Ball and Chain, which is a song I worked with Ryan on, and it's also on the new album.
Oh, wow.
The lyric, I remember when we were long shadow people till the lights went down. That one was, ooh, that was one where I immediately had to get up and go record it. That I said that's, yeah. I wasn't at the moment in a good. I wasn't in the. Well, it wasn't the best moment to try to do recording, but it was important at that moment, so I made it happen, and that ended up being a very influential line.
Yeah, I could feel the, like, just the resonance of that phrase, you know. In terms of language, I love language, like just words in general, and that is one righteous assembly of words.
Thanks.
I was going to ask, when I read your lyrics and when I feel them in the song, man, it's hard for me to put my finger down on, like, put my finger on what exactly I like about it. I'm not sure if it's the flow or the way that you say a lot by saying a very little, you know? What attracts you about certain phrases like that? When you hear a phrase like that and you're just like, yes, like, what is it about the words and the way they fit together that just hit home with you to where they inspire, you know, an entire song or a process?
Well, I was just talking last night with my friend about lyrics and lyricists that we appreciate. And I think one of my favorite lyricists is Sam Beam from Iron and Wine. He, I don't know how familiar you are with him, but he paints these incredible landscapes that just I can feel in my bones. And part of what he does is he uses really potent words. So he doesn't have to use many of them. He uses just the right words, and he doesn't use any cheap throwaway words. He's not trying to fill up space. He's using the space, he's applying the space and the words for its greatest potential. And I think that's, generally speaking, what I'm trying to do. I don't think of art and music and the different things I do as different things. I guess I think of them as different ways of doing the same thing, which ultimately comes down to finding balance between light and dark. That's really what all of it comes down to, is balance. And so sometimes I'll work on things kind of in tandem, like I've got a painting I'm working on right now that I was working on alongside the album, because I would find that I'd have a similar maybe issue with both, or I could consult one of them to solve a problem about the other. Like, I need to bring the focal point up, maybe in the painting or maybe in the song, or I need to make more or less saturation, or I need to blur that, or I need to warm up this whole thing, or I got it to where I had both the painting and the song in a place where they had, all the light and dark was correct, but then they weren't warm enough, and I needed to warm them both up, and I go, okay, I'm gonna add some orange here, and I'm gonna add some 3K over here, and I'm gonna add some 300, I'm gonna, warm it up. So it's all kind of the same processes for me. It's just about which materials I'm handling at that time. Yeah.
That's an interesting way of thinking about it. That these different works of art that are in entirely different mediums, that require an entirely different set of skills, that your brain is tuned to both of them, to where, you know, you adjust one and you see the other one a little bit differently. That's a really neat way of looking at it. I really like that.
It becomes a very, like, synesthetic sort of a process.
Yes.
And you and I have talked about that before, Ryan. I don't know if we did it on, you know, a recording, but I think that's probably, I mean, so, well, how do you, Ryan, how do you experience the music that you make? Like, how visual is the music that you make when you're making it?
Damn, you'd like turn the tables on me. Shit. Okay.
Well, it's a good method of illustrating my point.
Yeah, it's I see it mostly as a painting. It's like a painting in my head. There's it's easy for me to see if things are balanced in a way. I mean, things are either balanced or they're kind of intentionally unbalanced. There's certain spaces in the song where if I'm looking at it like a painting, I can see that like, well, there's this huge void right here, and I gotta something needs to happen here. Like I don't know what it is, but it gets to the point where the frequencies is almost different value tones of paint itself, and the paint can be just all over the place. But quite honestly, when I get close to finishing this project, finishing a project, and I listen to it, I'm like, I don't know how the fuck this happened. Like I was there the whole time, and I was toiling away and sacrificing so much time and energy and putting so much into it. But now I'm listening to it, I'm like, I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
See, but I mean, but you said that you visualize it like a painting, and that's exact. I mean, so Jessica is literally doing that.
Yeah.
She's taking that like that synesthesia of how she's experiencing her music and applying it to the visual, right? But like in real life, so that's fucking awesome. But it's the same for me with like if I'm making a cocktail, I hear that cocktail flavor wise as musical tone. And it's
Wow.
yeah, it's all the same thing. We're all artists, guys. Let's celebrate it.
I love it.
Celebrate.
Super cool. Man, I don't even know where to go from here.
I got somewhere I want to go with this.
Let's go.
Because Jessica, you really have an interesting way of like thinking and articulating these things. I feel like a lot of artists may experience these things the same way you do on some level, but they don't have the words for it. They haven't made the connections. But one of the more interesting stories that you told me that has really stuck with me was the story about finishing your Kurt Cobain painting. Is that something that you'd be willing to share with us? Because I think that implies something really interesting about the way that we look at our creations, you know?
Oh.
Just the finishing process, like you well, I'll let you say it if you want to say it.
I think you're talking about his eyes.
I am, yes.
Yeah. So when I was, my 27th birthday was coming up, I was working on a series of paintings, portraits of the 27 Club members, of course, which Kurt Cobain is a part. And it's portraiture it's very intimate, and I think there's a lot of responsibility with that, especially when you're painting someone who's no longer with us, and especially when you're painting someone you didn't know personally. There's very much like with singing, you know, there's a way it's intended to be expressed, and it's important that it's expressed that way. And so when there's a process that I go through doing a portrait that's about getting to know the subject. Certainly during the painting process, you get to know the subject in a way that most people wouldn't, because you get to know every little angle and every curve and every hair, and you learn things about their face that someone wouldn't know who didn't spend a lot of close time with them. And it's I think for that reason it's something to be treated delicately and with a lot of respect. And so I didn't, you know, when I started painting this series of portraits, I definitely had a feeling of, there was a sort of solemnity, but a wanting to, you know, show respect and to honor these people and not simply to exploit their image, you know, their images. And I find, you know, as I work on a painting, I develop a relationship with the painting, and when there's a figurative subject, a person in the painting, inevitably I'll develop a sort of relationship with that person as well. And when it's a real person, there has to be an openness to receive and perceive information about them, keeping in mind one's own lens and how it's going to warp things, you know, because it's coming in through my lens and I'm putting it back out and I'm like, oh shit, I don't want a whole bunch of my lens on this though. I just want to show, you know, I want to show them how they'd want to be shown, honestly, is what I'm thinking about when I do a portrait. I want to represent them the way they'd represent themselves. And so working on Kurt, it went very fast at the beginning. But when I got to the point of painting his eyes, what was it? You know, I'm sorry, that's even further in the story, because they have requests. This is the thing with paintings. They have one of the other paintings I did was Amy Winehouse. Let me tell you, it was a fucking nightmare.
Yes, I remember.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This was so funny though. This was so funny with Amy though, because as I was painting her for a while, and I didn't know her. I wasn't really familiar with her a lot at that time. But she liked to paint at night, so I'd stay up late at night and paint. And I ask, and I say, you know, is it okay if I paint this? Is it okay if I change that? Is it okay if I paint like this here? Is that right? And fucking Amy, and she'd be like, I don't give a fuck. And she was always, I don't give a fuck. And I was like, what is up, baby? I never knew that she said that though, because I didn't know her as an icon when she was alive, and I was not aware that that was a phrase that she said very frequently. And yet it constantly came up when I was trying to work on this painting with her. Oh my gosh. What a train wreck. Okay, but Kurt was different. Straightforward at first. And a couple of simple requests. He wanted his glasses. And I said, no, I don't want the glasses. And he said, glasses. And I said, I don't want the glasses. And he was like, look, glasses, or we're not doing this. And I was like, fuck, okay. So I gave him this. I said, how about up on the head? You can have your glasses. And he's like, great, just want him to put the glasses up on his head. But I got to his eyes, and I could not paint the eyes. I would get just totally blocked. And they wouldn't click. When I'm looking at a painting, and I there are spaces where it clicks, and it clicks with reality, and there are spaces where it doesn't, and the eyes wouldn't appear. And I was like, what's the deal, Kurt? And I felt like there was this anxiety, there was this concern, there was a distrust, really, is what it was. There was a distrust about my intentions, and whether I was showing up for him, or if I was showing up for myself, or for some other reason. And there was this unwillingness to give me the eyes, because I didn't know enough, I didn't have enough information. So I had to stop painting at that time, and I was moved at that time to go do a lot of research about Kurt, and especially his last days. And I spent about 48 hours, probably solid, doing that research, and came away with a greatly expanded view and understanding of the whole situation, and of Kurt himself, I felt like. And once I had done that, I was able to, the eyes came no problem, and we were able to finish it.
Nice.
Anyway, so I think a lot of artists do experience art as what you might call channeling, and that's, yeah, I don't know what that is. I do think it's something that's pretty universally experienced by creators, but we don't necessarily speak about it on those terms.
Sure.
I don't give a fuck.
Fuck.
Well, so do you feel like that's something that you've learned to cultivate though throughout creating for years and years? Is that Is that like a muscle that you've strengthened over time?
Which part?
Your pipeline to the muse, so to speak.
Oh, no. That's always been there.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to pull up an image of that painting so that Nick could respond to it, but it started all this crazy
Audio
feedback. Like we were
interference.
you were talking. I'm like, what's going on?
Oh, you know what? We'll save it for the post show recap vlog.
Okay. Yeah, we're doing vlogs for the podcast, but since it's called Forging Flame, we're calling them vlogs.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
There will
That
be
was-
some really intense flogging after the show.
there's gonna be hella
Excellent.
flogging going down. But I showed Nick one of your paintings. I don't know if it's the one that you're working on right now. It's the one that almost looks like it could be a self-portrait. I don't know if that's what you intended, but then there's like some kind of decay kind of happening on the side of the face, and it's one you've been working on off and on for, I want to say, like over a year, really. Is that one ringing any bells? Like,
It's got a distinctive split down the middle
Oh,
of
man.
lightness and darkness, right?
Oh, that one, yeah.
yeah, I showed
Well,
that
I
to
was-
him. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go on,
Whoop,
tell
you
me.
paused.
Tell me the thing.
What happened? Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I showed Nick the other day, showed him this painting, and just like he said earlier, like he doesn't have any kind of traditional training when it comes to like interpreting art or anything like that, but he just did this most beautiful breakdown of everything that's happening there and how he was taking it and how it made him feel and everything. So I think I want to explore that at some point. I might just off camera show him one of those and just make a video with it and just have him just riff on what's happening there, because it's so, gosh, there's so much happening in your paintings. It's really apparent that a lot of energy went into every aspect of it, and it's cool seeing that process on your Instagram, by the way, how these paintings evolve over time, elements
wow.
that come in and come out.
Yeah.
And all
Oh,
the
yeah.
while it's just becoming more and more refined with how much you're focusing on it. I think it's beautiful.
But there's a part of that too, because Ryan didn't just show me the painting you're working on. He showed me a lot of different stages of that painting, and
Oh, wow.
it seemed like you yourself were in a pretty distinct state of evolution throughout the entire time you've been working on that.
Yes.
Down to the central focal point of the piece being, I don't know, is that a self-portrait? Is that supposed to be you, or is it just a representation of a part of you?
More or less. Sometimes I'll do sort of check-in self-portraits at different times in my life, and I think at that time there's definitely things, and then there's the window of potentiality, and there's the shadows, and part of what I was trying to paint, and part of what I've been trying to paint a few times is I'm trying to paint the geometries of the resonators, and then they just kind of turn into different things. And that painting, I think, was another one where before I was really clear about the shapes and boundaries of the resonators, and I was just starting to feel it out. I was trying to create a representation of what that would look like for those who maybe don't think as visually as I do. But also, it's just, I'll have a hard time with auditory processing too. If someone tries to describe something to me, that's going to take a lot longer than,
Sure.
a diagram or something. So yeah, I think that is, in a way, a self-portrait, at least in that feeling. They're not always meant to be a perfect representation, but to capture a space and time, yeah.
Well, there was definitely a lot to kind of key in on, just in terms of I'm in no place to judge anyone else's art for any reason, but I can like give my interpretation of it, and that I feel like that's far too much for right now. That like discussing
Okay.
even just that one painting probably warrants its own episode.
Yeah, right.
But there was absolutely a lot of rich detail, and a lot of detail that just kind of evolved, that almost
Yeah.
tells a story. I feel like of the creative process itself, and represented, you know, like I said, what I interpreted as personal evolution and change, just in how, like, things that you might have covered up or things that you might have highlighted or changed a bit, you know, in a later pass, you know, even down to the expression on the face of the not necessarily you directly woman in there, but
Yeah.
beautiful work regardless. I was blown away. I kind of felt at one point like I was tripping looking at it. So
Score.
or at least
Awesome.
I would like to observe it in great detail under those circumstances.
Sure.
Could write a novel.
Nice.
Looks like my
close
battery's
is that
running
one?
low, guys.
What's that?
I just want to let you know the battery's running low on my nice
Okay,
camera
we
here.
can start wrapping it up.
Yeah,
pretty shortly.
We're about an hour and a half in. That's a lot of content. I mean, we accomplished our primary objective here, which was telling the world about this incredible album release. But
I'm so
I
excited.
I do feel like we've just barely kind of scratched the surface of what all we could talk about creatively with you.
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right, let's do it again sometime.
Oh,
then.
shit.
Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's do
You
like
guys are rad.
Try and stop us.
maybe sometime after everything's wrapped up and it's released and you're kind of in the aftermath, and you know, maybe we can
Yeah.
check in and do some kind of debrief and see where we're going from here. And also, anytime you've got anything to promote, I mean, the idea here is that we're going to make this as much of a platform for other creatives as
Hell
possible.
yes.
So anytime you've got something that you want to promote, you're more than welcome. Hit us up, and we're all about it. This was awesome.
You guys rock.
Thank
so
you.
much again.
Thank you again for being one of our first guests, and I'm really excited about putting this together and
Oh,
sharing
yeah.
it with everyone.
Well, I'm honored.
So what's the official release? Okay, so pre-sales happen on the equinox, being June 21st, right?
June 20th, Saturday. I'm opening pre-sales on Saturday, the
Okay.
20th. Yeah.
Okay.
And that'll be at my website, jessicahaeckel.com.
And that's spelled with a A. We'll put it on the screen.
Oh, let me tell you. Yeah, put on the screen HAECKEL.
JessicaHeeckel.com.
Okay.
And then you're on Instagram, just Jessica Haeckel, all one word. Is that right?
It's just my name everywhere you go. It's real
Awesome.
easy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Strong SEO move. Right on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Know where to
Yeah,
find you.
made it a lot simpler.
Well, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you so
guys.
much. Can't wait to check out the record, and maybe I can talk Ryan into trying to talk you into making an 11th deluxe edition.
It could happen on the second run. I might do it. They're all going to be numbered. So the first run's going to be like 1 out of 100, 2 out of 100, or whatever, and then the deluxe will be 1 out of 10. And then when you do the second run, it'll be like 1 out of 20, 2 out of 20. So if there's demand for that, we'll do a second run. But you know, we'll see how it goes. I'm so excited. Thanks again so
Fingers
much,
crossed.
you guys.
Yep.
Best of
Yeah,
luck to you. I hope it's an
so-
awesome release.
Thank you. July 15th. That's the official release date.
Awesome. Well, I'm
All
there.
right. Well,
Thanks,
have
Jessica.
a fantastic evening. Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.